There's a form of control so subtle, so insidious, that it operates in complete silence. It doesn't use overt aggression or loud demands, no. Instead, it weaponizes absence. It turns the very space between two people into a tool of psychological leverage. Today, we're going to break down one of the most powerful and misunderstood tactics in human dynamics: emotional withholding.
When they give you silence, give them space, not pursuit. Now, that isn't a retreat, it's a strategic realignment. In this explainer, we are going to dissect precisely how inaction is weaponized to gain absolute control. We're moving past the confusion, past the hurt, to expose the cold, hard mechanics of this dynamic. We're going to explore how someone can create a manufactured emotional scarcity, making you feel like their affection is some rare, precious resource, and in doing so, force you to pay a sky-high price for something that should be freely given.
So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at how silence itself becomes a weapon. Then we'll put a name to the feeling it creates, the anxiety of ambiguity. From there, we'll map out the core engine, what we call the scarcity control system, and see the psychological hijacking that makes it so potent. And then, we will equip you with a tactical counter, the Investment Decoupling Protocol, before we land on the ultimate strategic asset, stability. So let's jump in.
To really get this, you have to completely reframe your thinking. Emotional withholding isn't about what's missing, it's about what's being deliberately taken away. This isn't a passive oversight, it's a conscious choice. The entire tactic is built on a system of manufactured scarcity. Think of it like a market. In a healthy relationship, affection and validation are abundant, shared freely. But in this system, the manipulator creates an artificial drought, convincing you their attention is a rare commodity. And by controlling the supply, they can charge you an incredibly high price for it.
And this right here is the core paradox of the whole tactic. Inactivity is not passivity. It is a profound act of aggression. The silent treatment, the unanswered text, that emotional distance, these are not failures to act. They are calculated actions, specifically designed to create a psychological vacuum, a space of intense uncertainty that you feel this overwhelming compulsion to fill. This is the exact moment control shifts, when they realize they can command your complete attention by doing absolutely nothing at all.
So what does this strategy actually feel like on the receiving end? Well, it feels like fighting a ghost. There are no clear battle lines, no defined conflict to solve, and no actual words to argue against. There's just this crippling exhaustion, a constant low-grade panic, and this profound sense of helplessness as you desperately try to solve a problem that is never even named. Your mind just races, replaying every single interaction, searching for the mistake you must have made to cause them to pull away.
We can actually give this state a name: Relational Deficit Anxiety, or RDA. And if you've ever felt this, you know it's so much more than just feeling sad or lonely. RDA is a very specific condition. It's a state of chronic exhaustion and decision paralysis. It's the cognitive drain of constantly trying to decode silence. It's the immense emotional labor of trying to manage your own rising anxiety while also trying to guess and manage your partner's unspoken moods. By giving it a name, we externalize the problem. It's not a flaw in you, it is a condition being imposed on you.
So how is this state maintained? Through a simple but devastatingly effective toolkit. First up, the ambiguity advantage. By never explaining why they're pulling away, they keep you guessing, perpetually off balance, and they always maintain plausible deniability. What are you talking about? I'm fine. Second, they trigger loss aversion. This is our powerful, innate, and often irrational fear of losing something we already have. The threat of losing the connection, the fear of abandonment, it becomes a powerful motivator to just comply. And finally, all of this forces your resource dedication. Your time, your energy, your focus, it all gets poured into solving their manufactured unspoken crisis.
And this brings us to the next logical question in our breakdown. We've defined the weapon, and we've described the wound it leaves. But how is this state of anxiety and control actually engineered? What's the machine behind the curtain that makes it all work so damn effectively?
Welcome to the engine room. The scarcity control system isn't random, it's not emotional. It is a predictable, mechanical process that runs on one single fuel source: the strategic manipulation of scarcity. This is where we shift from the emotional experience to the tactical breakdown, looking at the system piece by piece. The entire system hinges on one core concept: the principle of least interest. It's simple. In any human interaction, the person who appears to care less, who is less invested in the outcome, holds the power. Now, the manipulator understands this intuitively,
But instead of just naturally being less invested, they artificially create this imbalance. Their withdrawal isn't a sign of genuine disinterest. It's a strategic performance designed to make you over-invest to compensate. And here's the leverage point. Your innate need for connection and certainty is the very currency they control.
This imbalance powers a really vicious feedback loop. Let's walk through it. Step 1 is strategic withdrawal. It always starts here, and it usually happens after you've challenged their control in some small way. Maybe you disagreed with them or had a fun night out with friends. They pull back. Step 2 is your increased investment. Your anxiety kicks in, naturally. You start to plead, apologize, you text, you call, you do anything to close that terrifying distance. And right here, this is the critical moment. This is where the trap closes. When you increase your investment because they've withdrawn, you are feeding the machine. Step 3 is the intermittent reward. Just when you're about to give up, they offer a brief flicker of affection. A kind word, a warm touch, it's just enough to give you a rush of relief and hope. And finally, step 4, dependence is solidified. That reward reinforces the entire cycle. Your brain learns a very dangerous lesson. Chasing equals relief. And just like that, you are conditioned to chase.
The end state of this whole system, the ultimate goal of that 4-step loop, is what we call emotional gatekeeping. This is a state of absolute control, where your emotional well-being, your sense of peace, and your very self-worth are no longer your own. They become perpetually dependent on the manipulator's presence and their approval. They become the sole, indispensable gatekeeper to your own validation.
Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, why is this so powerful? Why can't I just see what's happening and walk away? The answer isn't about willpower or weakness, it's about brain chemistry. This system is so brutally effective because it doesn't just manipulate your emotions, it hijacks the fundamental reward pathways in your brain, and it creates a powerful behavioral addiction.
Let's look at this comparison. Consistent, predictable affection from a partner, that creates feelings of security and stability. It's healthy, it's wonderful, but from a purely neurological standpoint, it's just less addictive. Intermittent reinforcement, though, giving you unpredictable, uncertain rewards, is powerfully addictive. It is the exact operating principle of a slot machine. You don't get a payout every time, but the possibility that you might on the very next pull is what keeps you glued to the machine. The manipulator's little flicker of affection, that's the slot machine payout. And the agonizing uncertainty of when it'll come next is what creates a compulsive need to keep trying.
So let's look at what's actually happening internally during that withdrawal phase. The manipulator's silence triggers a perfect storm inside your mind. First, as this chart shows, you see a massive spike in your cognitive load. Your brain goes into overdrive, analyzing every little detail, trying to solve the puzzle of their silence. Second, it activates that powerful sense of loss aversion, that deep, primal fear of abandonment. The combination of this mental exhaustion and emotional pain is just intense. And what's the fastest route to psychological relief? Compliance. Chasing them. Giving in. Your own brain chemistry starts to work against you, forcing you to participate in their loop.
Okay, we have now mapped the system and its psychological underpinnings. So we're going to shift now from analysis to action. This is the tactical countermeasure. This is not about having a long, heartfelt conversation or hoping they will change. This is about executing a precise protocol to disrupt and completely collapse their entire system of control.
The objective is simple and it is singular. You must collapse the scarcity loop. And you do that by refusing to play your part. You have to starve the system of its fuel by refusing to increase your investment when they withdraw theirs. This is the only move that matters. It is the only move that works.
So here is the protocol, step by step. 1. Recognize the signal. The moment they go distant, you'll feel that familiar knot of anxiety in your stomach, that impulse to plead, to fix it. That feeling is your signal to act, not react. 2. Refuse the chase. This is the hardest part and it's the most crucial. You have to consciously and deliberately do nothing to close the distance they've created. Do not send the text asking what's wrong. You are deliberately breaking the pattern they expect. 3. Re-anchor your validation. The manipulator has conditioned you to seek validation only from them. You have to break this dependency. Call a friend who respects you. Finish a project at work. Go for a run. Get your sense of self-worth from sources you actually control. And 4. Deploy strategic disclosure. Once you are calm and centered, you name the dynamic not with anger, but with cold, hard clarity.
You say this, or a version of it, calmly and neutrally. I see you are distant. I won't chase you for validation.
This script is a psychological masterstroke. Why? Because it achieves two critical objectives at once. First, it completely shatters their ambiguity advantage by showing them that you see the game they're playing. And second, it instantly transfers the burden of responsibility for the emotional state of the relationship right back to them. You are no longer trying to solve their silence. You are stating that their distance is their choice, and the resolution is now their problem. You have just reclaimed control of the narrative.
All of this, the tactics, the psychology, the counter protocols, it all builds to a single core insight. After you deconstruct the system and learn how to disable it, you arrive at a fundamental truth about power and human relationships. The ultimate strategic asset isn't control, or passion, or intensity. It's stability.
Here is the ultimate takeaway, the mental weapon you can carry with you. Volatility is vulnerability. The entire system of emotional withholding relies on creating emotional chaos, on engineered peaks and valleys, on manufactured anxiety and rationed relief. That volatility is what makes you vulnerable. Stability, on the other hand, is power. A calm, centered, emotionally self-regulated state is a fortress the manipulator cannot breach. Your internal stability becomes a shield that their tactics cannot penetrate. It is the high ground in any psychological conflict.
So, we've pulled back the curtain. We've exposed the machinery of control. You can now see the system for what it is, not a reflection of your worth, but a calculated strategy. The knowledge is now yours. So the only question that remains is this: now that you can see the system, how will you choose to respond?